Many people pray for financial blessing, yet still find themselves struggling month after month. The Bible shows that prosperity rarely comes by chance. It follows patterns, discipline, and habits that position people for increase over time. In this video, we'll walk through 7 biblical habits that attract prosperity and help change how money flows in your life. And the first habit is seeking wisdom before chasing money. Most people reverse this order. They chase income first and hope wisdom follows. But Proverbs makes the sequence clear. Wisdom is the principal thing. Everything else flows from it. Look at Solomon. God appeared to him and said, "Ask for anything you want." Solomon could have requested gold, land, military power, or international influence. He asked for wisdom instead. 1 Kings chapter 3 records his request for a discerning heart to govern well. Because Solomon prioritized wisdom over wealth, God gave him both. He became the richest person in human history. Here is why this matters for you. Money without wisdom is a ticking time bomb. This is why 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years. This is why professional athletes earning hundreds of millions end up broke. This is why inherited wealth often disappears within 1 generation. The money arrived, but the wisdom to steward it did not. Wisdom attracts prosperity because it teaches you what to do with resources when they come. It shows you which opportunities to pursue and which to avoid. It protects you from costly mistakes that drain your finances. It positions you to make decisions that multiply rather than deplete. Before you pray for more income, pray for wisdom to manage what you already have. Read Proverbs daily. Seek counsel from people who have built sustainable wealth. Ask yourself before every purchase whether this is wisdom or waste. When you prioritize wisdom, wealth becomes the natural result. The second habit is diligent and skillful work. Excellence creates opportunity. Proverbs 10 verse 4 says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." The connection between work ethic and provision appears throughout Scripture. Consider Bezalel in Exodus chapter 31. God chose him to build the tabernacle not because of his connections or his family name, but because of his skill. The text says, God filled him with wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and all kinds of craftsmanship. His ability opened the door to the most prestigious project of his generation. Proverbs 22 verse 29 asks, "Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings." Skill creates access. Excellence opens doors that networking cannot. When you become exceptionally good at something valuable, demand follows naturally. In practical terms, this means investing in your abilities before expecting financial return. Learn the craft, master the skill, study the industry, develop expertise that makes you indispensable. The marketplace rewards competence and pays premium prices for excellence. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop hoping someone will hand you success. Build your skills until your work speaks for itself. That is how you attract opportunities that others miss. The third habit is patience and long-term thinking. Wealth rarely arrives overnight. Proverbs 13 verse 11 says, "Whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow." The emphasis is on gradual accumulation through consistent effort. Jacob understood this principle. Genesis chapter 30 describes how he patiently built wealth through strategic livestock management. He did not demand immediate results. He worked for years, carefully selecting breeding animals and multiplying his flocks through disciplined planning. His patience produced generational wealth. Modern application looks like consistent saving even when amounts seem small. It looks like investing regularly rather than waiting for the perfect moment. It looks like making financial decisions based on 5-year outcomes instead of 5-minute emotions. Patience also means resisting lifestyle inflation when income increases. Most people spend raises as quickly as they receive them. They upgrade their car, their house, their wardrobe. The income goes up, but wealth does not accumulate because spending rises in lockstep. Wise stewards think differently. They increase income while maintaining reasonable expenses. They invest the difference. They allow compound growth to work over years and decades. They understand that small, consistent actions create massive results when given enough time. Which of these first 3 habits resonates most with your current season? The remaining 4 habits build on this foundation in ways that will challenge everything you thought you knew about biblical prosperity. What comes next will show you why faithful management of small resources attracts bigger opportunities. The 4th habit is faithful stewardship of small resources. This principle separates those who attract increase from those who remain stuck. Jesus taught in Luke 16 verse 10, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." Notice the order. Faithfulness with little comes before receiving much. Most people reverse this. They think once I get more money, then I will manage it well. That mindset guarantees you will never get more. God tests your stewardship with what you already have before entrusting you with greater resources. The parable of the talents in Matthew 25 illustrates this perfectly. A master gave 3 servants different amounts of money to manage. 2 servants invested what they received and doubled the value. 1 servant buried his portion out of fear. When the master returned, he rewarded the faithful stewards with even greater responsibility and resources. But the fearful servant lost everything he had been given. I made a video about the parable of talents shown above, definitely worth checking out. The lesson is clear. Multiplication follows management. Increase follows integrity. You cannot expect God to bless financial chaos. Track where your money goes. Create a spending plan. Eliminate waste. Save consistently, even if amounts seem insignificant. These disciplines signal readiness for bigger opportunities. A person who cannot manage $1,000 faithfully will not suddenly become responsible with $10,000. Build the habits now that prepare you for future increase. The 5th habit is generosity that creates opportunity. This might seem counterintuitive. How does giving away resources attract prosperity? Because generosity positions you in the flow of divine blessing. 1 Kings 17 records the story of a widow in Zarephath during severe famine. She had only enough flour and oil for one final meal before she and her son would starve. The prophet Elijah asked her to make him bread first, then feed herself and her son. She could have refused. She could have prioritized survival over generosity. Instead, she gave from her lack. That act of faith triggered supernatural provision. Her flour jar and oil jug never ran empty throughout the entire famine. Generosity unlocked ongoing supply. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This is not prosperity gospel nonsense. This is biblical economics. When you give wisely and strategically, you build relationships that open doors. You create goodwill that returns multiplied. You demonstrate trustworthiness that attracts investment. Generosity also breaks the grip of fear and scarcity thinking. When you give from what you have, you declare that God is your source, not your bank account. That spiritual posture invites blessing that natural logic cannot explain. The 6th habit is maintaining faith during difficult seasons. Financial hardship is not evidence of God's displeasure. Sometimes it is preparation for greater capacity. Consider Job. He lost everything: wealth, health, family. Yet he maintained his integrity and trust in God through catastrophic loss. Job 42 verse 10 says, "After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before." The suffering was not punishment. It was preparation. Job emerged from the trial with deeper wisdom, stronger character, and doubled resources. Difficulty teaches lessons that prosperity never could. Financial setbacks force you to evaluate priorities, eliminate waste, and develop resilience. These qualities position you to steward future increase wisely. Do not despise the season of struggle. Use it to build the foundation that will support coming abundance. The difference between those who break under pressure and those who break through to blessing is often perspective. Will you allow hardship to embitter you or refine you? Your response determines what comes next. The 7th habit is putting God first in every financial decision. This sounds simple but requires daily intentionality. Matthew 6:33 instructs, "Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. The things Jesus referenced include provision, clothing, and material needs. When you prioritize God's purposes above your preferences, He assumes responsibility for your supply. Abraham demonstrated this when God called him to leave everything familiar and go to an unknown land. He could have demanded details, negotiated terms, or insisted on guarantees. Instead, he obeyed immediately. That decision positioned him to receive the covenant blessings that made him extraordinarily wealthy. Putting God first means consulting Him before major purchases. It means aligning your career with His calling rather than chasing the biggest paycheck. It means giving even when budgets are tight because you trust His provision more than your calculations. This habit transforms your relationship with money from anxiety to peace. You stop striving and start stewarding. You recognize that every resource flows from His hand, and your role is faithful management, not fearful hoarding. These 7 habits create a lifestyle that attracts biblical prosperity. Not because they manipulate God, but because they align you with how He designed provision to flow. Notice the pattern. Each habit requires intentionality. Each demands consistency. Each produces results that accumulate over time rather than appearing overnight. This is how Scripture teaches wealth building. Not through lottery tickets or speculation, but through character development and faithful obedience to divine principles. Next, watch. Why God punishes those who play it safe with money, to understand how opportunity and stewardship work together. This is the video about the parable of talents I mentioned earlier. I'll see you there.